Hello and welcome to the Elemental Entrepreneurship Podcast. The elements are a metaphor, a simple organizational system to help us understand business and ourselves as business owners. And they are the components of nature, the roots of magic, and the building blocks of life. We all have some aspects of life and business where we thrive and others that are more challenging. By looking at these things elementally, we remove shame and judgment and can discern which elements would help us bring ourselves into balance. Earth, root chakra, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. Earth rules the parts of business that keep us safe and secure as we do our soul work. Sustainability, finances, contracts, systems, our core values, and clarity about exactly what our medicine is and how we fit into the ecosystem are governed by Earth element. Air, heart and third eye chakra, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Air rules our big vision, our ultimate picture of success. It's where we connect our medicine to a mission and decide what kind of impact we want to create during our time on this planet. Water, sacral chakra, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. This is the realm of our emotions, and business is emotional. How we feel about people, ourselves, visibility, uncertainty, how we handle stress and disappointment, all of this and more affects how you navigate your business. Water element is where we learn to resource ourselves and expand our capacity to hold the big feelings that come with doing our work in the world. Fire, solar plexus chakra, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Fire is where we take our gifts, our uniqueness, and our creations, and we blaze them out into the world. All things selling, marketing, and the day-to-day actions of running our business are ruled by fire. Too much fire and we burn out. Not enough and our business never makes it off the ground. And spirit, crown chakra. Every good gardener knows the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Spirit rules the faith required to keep tending your business long before you've seen a single sprout of evidence that it's growing. No matter what you believe in, spirit element is what you travel through after you leap and before you land. Life thrives when all of the elements are in balance. So do you, and so will your business. To find out your dominant element, take our quiz at intuitiveedgecoaching.com/quiz. Now let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Elemental Entrepreneurship Podcast. I'm your host, Cera. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here with me today. If it's your first time, I'm so glad that you're here. Stick around, come back. We love having you here. If you are returning, thank you so much, as always, for coming back and listening to this show again. Each and every one of you means so much to me. If you haven't yet taken a moment to subscribe to the show, to leave a 5-star review, please do that. It really helps the show. And always when you're listening, if you just share a screenshot on social media and tag me at Intuitive Edge Coaching, I would love to hear from you and see that you are checking out this podcast. I have been sharing recently. It's so weird to do stuff like this where I share with you, but I don't know who's out there listening, and I don't get that much of a two-way conversation. So anything that we can do to increase the back and forth in this so that it's not all just me speaking out into the void and having no idea where it's landing, I mean, that's kind of cool too. But I would love to hear from you and to know who's out there, who's listening to this, that it is landing in your podcast feed and in your ear holes and in your life. So I'd love to see who else out there listening. Today's episode is a fun one. This is a recast, I guess. I am sharing an interview that I did on KC Vollard's Empower Project Radio recently, and we had a really fun conversation. And in this conversation, I'm getting into the parallels that I see between diet culture marketing and business coaching marketing. This is a big trend that I've been noticing for a while. I've been speaking about it for a while here and there. I've talked about it on social media. I've mentioned it a couple of times on this podcast. But in this episode, I really break down side by side the tactics that are used by diet culture and diet industry marketing and the tactics that I'm seeing used in the business coach marketing world by some of the biggest business coaches that are out there right now. now. And I really don't pull any punches. I say exactly what I think on this episode about those tactics. So take a listen. And then, of course, if you're feeling sensitive to any conversations about diet culture, maybe skip this one. But if you're open to hearing it broken down through a pretty critical lens and hearing how those same tactics are showing up in marketing that you may be consuming online in your business life, I would definitely take a listen, because this stuff is very prevalent. It is kind of everywhere, and I think it needs to be talked about. One little announcement, you will also hear me in this episode talk about my upcoming mastermind for established entrepreneurs. It's called POWERHOUSE Mastermind. This is a beta mastermind. It's the first time I've ever run it. And it is a hybrid of a mastermind and a group coaching program. So there's 2 calls a month in POWERHOUSE, and 1 call a month will be hot seat group coaching. The other call will be a more traditional mastermind format where everyone in the group is sharing with one another and learning from one another. This program is for the established entrepreneur who feels like you hit a certain level of success in your business and then everything that you were doing stopped working. You're doing the same marketing and it stopped working. You're doing the, same amount of marketing and it's no longer getting you the results that it used to get you. Or you're feeling like you do everything yourself and your business is working, but you have to work constantly all the time, and you have a high level of stress and anxiety that if you slow down at all, your business will fall apart and things will stop working. This is for the established entrepreneur who feels like you have hit a cap where you have a next level that you want to expand into, a next level of reach, a next level of income, a next level of success, and you feel like you are not able to break through that barrier on your own and you can't figure out why. This mastermind is for you, because I can guarantee you it probably has nothing to do with working harder, with learning more, or with cultivating more strategies. It is all about becoming the powerhouse of your business. And what I believe is that you are the power behind your business. And when I say you, I actually mean your physical body, your emotions, your intuition, your insights, your particular genius, the things that light you up that maybe you're afraid to really go after because you already feel known for something that people pay you for, but it's not what lights you up anymore. The things that you really want to say, but you're afraid to say them because you don't want to lose any of your audience. There is a next level of personal power available for you to step into, and that is the key to unlocking your next level. So we're going to be exploring that together and cultivating that gently over the course of a year inside the POWERHOUSE Mastermind. This mastermind is, again, it's a beta round, so it is the cheapest it will ever be. It's $5,555 for the entire year. There's a 12-month payment plan. It is a very small group, and it is by application only. The doors for POWERHOUSE Mastermind are closing in just a couple of weeks. They're closing on May 24th, and the group starts in June. We're going summer solstice to summer solstice, height of power to height of power. So I hope that you are excited about stepping into POWERHOUSE if this is for you, and that your first empowered move, your first POWERHOUSE move is to go check out all of the information and get your application in, especially if this feels like a full body yes for you, even though it doesn't all the way make sense to your mind. That is a POWERHOUSE move. To my body, this makes sense. This feels like a yes. I'm a little scared. I'm a little nervous, but I know that this is right, even though I don't entirely know why it's right yet. Trusting that, acting on it, and applying based off of that is a major POWERHOUSE
move. So I invite each of you who feels inspired by this to take a look at the information. The link is in the show notes, and to apply for Powerhouse Mastermind. And without a further ado, let's get into this episode, a reshare of me as a guest on KC Vollard's Empower Project Radio, talking about the parallels between diet culture marketing and business coaching marketing, and so many other things. I hope you enjoy this episode. And of course, again, if you do, let me know. I'd love to hear from you.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Empower Project Radio. I am super stoked for today's guest expert coming on. I had the honor of being on her podcast a few weeks ago, and the conversation was just so organic and so juicy. And there were just so many of those topics that we deep dove into that I was like, I literally cannot wait to come back into conversation with you and just hang out, see where the conversation goes. I think that a lot of the work that we do is similar in ways, which I always love to see where there is overlap and fresh perspective. And I know that she's going to be just a beautiful asset to this podcast and being in your ears today. So I am so excited to be sitting here today with Cera Beyer, who is a certified life and business coach, dancer and embodiment coach, movement coach, the CEO of Intuitive Edge Coaching, Intuitive Edge Creative, based out of LA, California, which I'm so jealous about living in Canada. I just love California so much. She's dedicated to helping artists, creatives, and spiritual practitioners move anything that keeps them in their own way. I'm committed to helping people get in their brilliant, life-changing workout out of their heads and into their world, where it can benefit the collective. So I know that you're going to fit right in on this podcast for, the visionary entrepreneurs who that is what they're doing. It's like building those gifts from your heart, from your soul, from that, that nudge, that calling. But there's so much shit, whether it be from conditioning or our patterns, our brain, our body, that really gets in our way. And so you helping people move through that is just so beautiful. And I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. So there's so many different directions that we can go. We were actually talking about this before we, hopped on the show. Where do we want to go? Because I feel like you're so much like me in the way that we're so multidimensional and multi-passionate, and we just have so many things that we want to share on so many different topics. But the one that really popped up for me when I was thinking about our episode today and kind of where we want to go is diet culture and marketing tactics, the overlap between those. And I know that you do a lot of work with people on how you feel in your body and who you are in your body really is reflected into your business and your marketing and your visibility and all of those pieces. So I would love to chat on that topic with you today.
I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because I just don't really see it being addressed. And I guess I'll start with saying, for those who maybe aren't as familiar with the term diet culture, or you're what does that really mean? Just in case that phrase is not top of mind for you, because I think diet culture really flies under the radar. Diet culture is let's see, how do I want to say this? It is a large-scale oppressive effort toward keeping people, but especially women and femmes, focused in on the process of being smaller as one of our main core values and pursuits in life. And so, conversations about the morality of food, and this food is good and this food is bad, and working out is good and not working out is bad, right? It's all very moral. And the normalization of topics when people jump into, I'm on this reduction, I'm on this cleanse, I'm on this diet, I'm doing this, this fast, I'm doing this challenge, I'm working out every day. What are you doing? The way that it is baked into society that it is very normal and healthy for everyone to be concerned with making their body smaller. Is kind of what that's rooted in. And that is, hand in hand with the diet industry and the beauty industry, which is very clever because it constantly rebrands itself. So right now there was backlash against the diet industry. So now it's kind of all rebranded itself around health, but it's all still the same stuff, right? So we're constantly being sold these kind of miracle promises about our bodies. And like, if you do my 3-week program, you're going to lose this crazy amount of weight and you're going to have all these results. Your clothes are going to change and everyone's going to be so attracted to you and you're finally going to be happy. And all the problems that you've had with your body and with your body image and your self-esteem are going to be gone. Problems that we created, but that's a sidebar. And that you can just do this thing and it's going to fix everything. Or you can take this pill, or you can do this one workout plan, this one meal plan, and it's going to solve everything. The diet industry has like a 90% failure rate. Like if any other industry had as high a failure rate, like it wouldn't be an industry anymore. Everyone would be onto it. But one of the things that it's done that's so brilliant is train us that it's our fault. Right. So like if you do a diet program and it doesn't work for you, or you lose weight and you gain all the weight back, they've convinced us that that is because we did it wrong and that the problem is us. There is a diet that will work. That just wasn't the right one. You have to go find something different, go buy something else. And it keeps you constantly investing in the next thing without ever realizing that like the very unsexy truth of life is like, eat food that you digest well, that makes your body feel good, and like move around and take good care of yourself and like feel good, and everyone's bodies look different. Like you can't really sell that. It's not super exciting. I see this exact same structure and tactic in the business coach marketing world. Everything is, if you just take my 4-day course, you're going to make 7 figures overnight and you're going to be laying on a beach drinking Mai Tais as payment notifications roll in. And if it doesn't work for you, then you should upgrade to the mastermind and pay $20,000 to be in this more inclusive like container, right? So the problem isn't that the program doesn't work. The problem is it didn't work for you, or you didn't work it properly, but there is a right program out there for you and you just have to keep investing. You just have to keep buying. And it is incredibly predatory. And what I started realizing is that a lot of the biggest names in the business coaching industry, if you go far enough back in their business history, they were actually part of diet MLMs when they started. So many of them were Beachbody MLM people. And I think this is extra important because they were trained in a marketing tactic that is directly diet related. And then they took that and applied it to business and business coaching. But it's also disingenuous because they grew, most of them, a huge following from selling diet stuff. And then they transitioned over into business coaching. So if you find them now, you assumed they grew this huge platform from selling business coaching, but they didn't. They grew this huge platform selling diet products and then transitioned that audience. So it looks like they're experts in building a business when really they're like experts in manipulative and disempowering marketing that makes people feel like they are the guru with the magical solution. And it's really rough on our industry, and it's really hard for coaches who want to help people be grounded in a realistic outlook about business and what business is like for most people, which is not that after 4 days you are building a 7-figure business. It took for a long time, but there you go. I'm gonna like drop that in the chat.
Totally. I love this. So what I think is really exciting and interesting about this is that's actually where I started. So I actually was one of the top Canadian Beachbody coaches when it came out. I was in that industry for about 6 years. Now, when I left that industry, a big piece of it was because I worked so closely with corporate. And so it became so much less about like building a brand and marketing your way and building a business because you love the products and because you yada, yada. Like I spoke on Beachbody stages, and like, so I seen the part of it where it was like behind the scenes of the Beachbody coaches who speak on the Beachbody stages are told what to say. Like, it's not like you get to go and say what you want to say on the stages. It's not you getting to market what you want to market anymore. Like, when you get to a certain level in those companies, the toxicity that I found was that you lost your voice and your way of doing it. And we really had to be careful, like a red tape kind of environment. Like, you can say this, but you can't say this. You can do this, but you can't do this. And so operating in that way, like when I originally built that business, of course it was because I loved what I did. And a lot of the stuff that I did was mindset anyways. And so it was really interesting when I did make the decision to transition out of that. What I didn't do is go directly into business coaching. So that's what I'm hearing you say also, is that, going from somewhere where you learn these tools in, what does feel like a predatory way, and then come into an industry using those tools. So what I did when I transitioned out is I looked at exactly what you're saying. I looked at, like, why are people not getting the results? What is not working in this environment? And it has nothing to do with the program that they're doing. It has nothing to do with how actually, in fact, fucking awesome the programs are. It has everything to do with our mindset and our beliefs and our ability to, activate that power within ourselves. And when we buy these programs, we're grasping at the straws. What's the next thing? That diet culture that you're talking about, right? Like, what's the next thing to get me those results? And so when I really started looking at it from that perspective, it was like, how do we actually help people heal? Like, really, really heal. And so there was a gap in between where I went from Beachbody coaching into like business coaching, where I took like so many certifications, which I think people don't do. Like, I got certified in all of the neurosomatic tools, tons of embodiment stuff, somatic experiencing type stuff, like master level NLP hypnotherapy, you know what I mean? So I could really help people get to the root of, like, what is the issue that's actually happening? And it's that issue that's perpetuated in the diet industry that leaks over into the business industry, that leaks over into the personal development industry. It's like, if you're not fucking happy there, you're not going to be happy in your business. You're not going to be happy with your personal development. You're not going to be happy in your relationship. You're not going to be happy. So it's really, really interesting. I love the perspective that you bring. And I think I bring a really unique perspective to that as well, because I agree with a lot of the stuff that you're saying. But it's almost like an insider view that I have, it's like, here's the toxic side of being really, really successful in a network marketing company and choosing to do business differently, because of the manipulative stuff that you don't get to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm so glad that you said, like, always looking for the next thing, because I think that what these two marketing styles and what these two industries have in common is the perpetuation of a disempowered consumer. Right? Like, I don't want anyone looking to me as the answer to their problems, or to their next coach, or the next coach after that, or the next program, right? Like, it really inspires this attitude of like, I don't know what's good for me. I don't know how to take care of myself. I don't know what to do. The answers are out there. There's an expert who's going to tell me what to do. And there's a formula out there, and I just have to find it, but I don't know, right? Like, so it's very keen on disempowering the consumer and making them think that, right? Like, we even get trained in that, like, position yourself as an expert. And yeah, like, you should position yourself as an expert, but not as a guru, and not as somebody who like knows better than your client about what's best for them. And when we have people, and I have been in this too, in this state of like, there's somebody out there with the answers for me. What I've said to people a lot is like, do you actually have a desire to build a business, or do you have like an immature kind of like princess fantasy where something's going to come and save you from your life. And that sounds harsh, but like we all are raised in this kind of immature princess fantasy. And when I say immature, I literally mean like child. It's a child part of us that wants to be rescued from having to be our own authority, that wants to be rescued from having our own power, that wants to be rescued from critical thinking, that wants to be rescued from being in charge. We're like I wish there was someone out there who knew how to take care of me better than me. That would be really amazing. I wish there was an adultier adult with all the answers who could just like come in and tell me what to do and give me all the right answers. And when you give them to me, I am guaranteed success, and A plus B is going to equal C. And I don't have to be in charge of making any choices beyond just choosing that you're going to be the person who I let lead me. And if it goes badly, it's not my fault. And if it goes well, it's not really my success. Like everything is outsourced. And on the other side of that, I'm going to have this magical life with no problems, right? That's how you know it's like a princess fantasy. Like, do you actually want to build a business, or do you have the fantasy of laying on the beach while the payment notifications roll in? There's a difference, because once you build your business, it's just your job. Like Casey and I are at work right now. Like, even if I would like to be on the beach today, I have a team, I have emails to write, I have podcasts that I'm recording, I have clients this week. Like, it's still once it's all set up, even if it's really successful, it's still just your job. And it might be like the best job you've ever had, and you might be super passionate about it. But I think really checking in with like, is having a successful business my new escapist fantasy, where on the other side of this, I have this brilliant life with no problems and I'm saved from the stresses that I have now? Or do I actually want to build a company, which is like actually kind of a mundane thing? Does that
100%. Yeah, totally. I totally agree. And I think that that's where like that toxicity can come in a little bit too, because when we are living from this, like princess fantasy, as you call it, like that's where we are so fucking susceptible to the coaches that are marketing to like, do this thing and you can 1000% automate your business, never work another day in your life, sit on the beach while you make, 6 figures like a minute, right? That's where that comes from. When you look at your business like the CEO of a company, like I look at my business like I am the head, I am the CEO of a legitimate actual company, and I have to show up for my company. It makes me a lot less susceptible to watching these like quick fixes that you're talking about. It's like you're so much less likely to buy into like, okay, what's the quick things that I can make a quick buck so that I can have quick success, that I can be hands off. I do not invest in my business in that way, because I look at my business like the CEO. So I'm looking at the investments that I make, like what is the long-term return on investment that is going to help my company thrive? And the more my company is thriving, the more ability I have to be, yes, flexible in my schedule, because we're able to scale, because we're able to hire a really good team, because we're able to, create different modes of marketing. Like it's just, you start to look at your business differently. So I love that we're talking on this and how those two pieces kind of bridge together. That like, if you are looking at your business in that, like, I want to be taken care of and I want to be completely hands off, it also can leave you really susceptible to some of the really toxic marketing strategies that are happening in the industry.
Right. You're in a disempowered place. You're actually in the market for saving. And then someone with really seductive marketing that's kind of disingenuous, that's like, just buy this thing and you're going to get these fast results. Like, you guys are a match made in heaven. If you're not in an outsourcing of your own authority place, and you are in the market for genuine mentorship rooted in knowing exactly what it is that you need help with, what kind of support works best for you, the qualities that you're looking for in a mentor, that is a much more empowered place. Because I do believe in, obviously I'm a coach, right? Like, I think coaching is really important. I think having a mentor and having a coach is an incredibly important thing. I have a mentor, I have coaches, I work with mentors, consultants, coaches all the time. But it starts with me knowing what it is I need help with very specifically, and then being able to go and look at people's work, at their offers, at their socials, at their videos, get on a conversation with them and figure out, is this a person who can help me with this specific issue I have? Do our values align? Do our methods align? I'm in a much more empowered consumer place as I do that. And I'm also very keen on noticing for myself, not just in coach marketing, but I do this with all advertising, is like noticing my own arousal responses. It's like when you're watching a movie and they're able to get you to cry because of like sad music and lighting. And you can be like, objectively, this script isn't good, but like they're able to pull my feels buttons because they're doing something, right? Like it's very scientific, it's very strategic. A lot of marketing is able to excite arousal in us. And so noticing, am I feeling like I want to buy this offer that I'm seeing because inside me it's provoking a feeling of jealousy, a feeling of comparison, a feeling of FOMO, a feeling that this person must know something I don't know? Like, what are the feelings I'm experiencing looking at this? And if those feelings are anything other than genuine excitement, certainty that this is a person who can help me solve a problem I can name and identify, and like a grounded feeling in my body of like, yes, this is a good investment for me, I probably shouldn't be buying it. I might want to like wait on it for a couple of days and sit with it and think about like, what is this stirring up in me? Because it's designed to provoke an emotional response in this so that we'll take an action, right? That's what like it's designed to convert us. And so putting the power, which is something I'm really thinking about right now a lot. I know we're going to talk about Powerhouse later, but like, I'm just thinking so much about like, what does it mean to return the power in all of your decision making back to your own body and back to yourself? What does it mean for you to be the ultimate authority on you and what's right for you? What does it mean to become aware of places that we're outsourcing our power and to like draw that power back in? And can we do that in an industry where like I got like 7 emails today from programs that like I wanted to buy all of them. They all look cool. If I had my way, I would do nothing but take programs all day, every day, because it's just fun to learn. I really want to learn all the things. So there's that part too, right? So it's like sometimes I have to just be like firm with myself because I'm like, you literally cannot buy another program like just because you want to learn it. You have to pause. But looking at like, am I interested in this because it's fun learning? Am I interested in this because I need help? Or am I interested in this because it's stirring up some insecurity in me and making me think if I don't have it, I'm not going to be successful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that perspective. I'm curious where your background lies in business. Like, how did you transition into coaching a business? How did you even come into this?
Yeah. I have been self-employed since I was like 18, and for most of my life, I called myself a scrappy DIY arts hustler. So I just worked in the arts. I also was immersed in diet culture because, as Casey mentioned, I'm a dancer, and so I have been in the dance world my whole life, which, you know, not really known for great body politics. Um, Definitely was entrenched in conversations about my size for a majority of my life. But when you're in the arts or in sports, you grow up being coached. Like that's just a normal thing. This mentality of always trying to improve. And like if you want to be really good at turns, you go find a teacher who's great at teaching turns and you're getting coached constantly. If you want to be a great performer, you go get a performance coach and you're getting coached down to like your pinky placement and your face. So I grew up being coached. That was like a very normal thing to me. And seeking out mentors and teachers who could help me improve was just part of my life. And then I realized very, very young that I didn't ever want to have a day job. So I opened an art gallery with my friends. I had a dance company. I went to college for dance. And then I opened a dance studio, a small boutique dance studio in San Francisco that won Best of the Bay over the big studios 2 years in a row in our local paper. I had a graphic design business. So I was always doing something on my own. And so I would say I was always, in the past, I would have said I was business minded. I was a freelancer and I did not realize the difference. In around my mid 30s, I had already started my coaching business. So I think in my early 30s, I realized how much of the work that I was doing in dance was much deeper than dance. So in my dance world, I was kind of known for teaching creative process and choreography more than technique. So all over the world that I went teaching choreography, all the questions I would get was like, who am I to do this? How do I know that anyone cares? How do I know it's not boring? Can I really charge money for this? How do I lead a company without like pissing anyone off? I don't want to be bossy. Is this derivative? Like all these questions that I'm like, this has nothing to do with dance. And so I had been working with life coaches and business coaches in my 20s. I was like, this is a skill set that would help me in this creative work because so many of the problems people are coming to me with are really about mindset, belief, self-esteem, how we think about ourselves, how we think about other people. And I need to have tools to work with people in a different way on those things. So I had already gotten certified in those things because they were supportive. I started my coaching company 9 years ago when I first moved to LA. And I originally thought I was going to be working all with dancers and choreographers. But as I was working with people, I was like, oh, all these questions that people have really are not dance specific. I can do this with anyone who's trying to take work that is very vulnerable, that like comes from their heart and put it out in the world. Because all the big questions are the same big questions, no matter what it is that we're creating. And it also kind of woke me up to the fact that like, I was like, okay, all I've really cared about my entire adult life is like being able to cover my bills without having a job. That was really the goal. And I've been happy and I've done that. But I was like, I'm 36, 37. I have no savings. I have never been farther ahead than a month. I've never really like built any type of security or future for myself. And now I'm like, oh, I like, first of all, feel the expiration date on my knees. Like I can't keep teaching 5 dance classes a day forever. This is not sustainable. And I can't keep being this broke forever. And like, it's not that I hadn't been happy, but like I grew up really like my life concerns. I was like, I would like to buy a house someday. I'd like to have a future and like a retirement plan. And so I had to realize that I actually didn't know anything about business. I had been self-employed for like 18 years, but that wasn't the same as knowing how to build a company. And so first I had to like get real with myself that I had a big gap in understanding things about business. I had a lot of work that I needed to do around money and like my relationship to money and wealth building. And so I really set into doing those things. I like immediately went out and got a business mentor to help me learn the things about business I didn't know. I did a bunch of work on money and my relationship with money. And pretty quickly after getting involved with that first mentor, I had my first 5-figure month. And that has been the new baseline since then for now 6 years. But I'm kind of glad I waited until I was the age that I was because I was a pretty grounded person and like a pretty centered adult. And so I noticed my reaction to hitting my first 5-figure month, my first 5-figure month was that I immediately thought it was a fluke and wanted to go right back into hoarding all of the money because I was afraid it would never happen again. Wanted to stop investing in my business, stop investing in myself. Like it just revealed a new layer of money stuff. And so my decision in that moment was to stabilize for a year. And I think about other people that I was in that cohort of that business program with who scaled really, really, really fast and then closed their business within a couple of years. And I look back and I'm so grateful that I had the presence in that moment to not be seduced into like the next container, the next container, the next container with that coach, and to actually be like, this unsettles my nervous system. My goal is to, for the first time in my life, feel what it feels like to have enough because I don't know what it feels like. This was the first time I'd ever experienced genuinely having enough money, like enough money that if my animals had to go to the vet and something happened to my car in the same month, I didn't have to choose. Enough money that like I didn't have a week at the end of the month where I had nothing and I had to just like white knuckle it. The first time I'd ever had enough to not defer maintenance or spending for myself or my home. And that was very dysregulating. And so I was very happy that I made the choice to sustain 5-figure months for a year first. But like, I was like 10K months, great. Like, don't try to move from here. Stay right here until this feels so normal that you're ready for the next level up. And I was really, really glad that I made that decision, because I think that gave me the base and the foundation to start approaching scaling from a much more mature place versus I felt like the kick of, oh, this is a high. What's the next high? What's the next high? What's the next high? Accompanied with the fear. And I was like, I'm not going to scale from fear. I don't want to do that. So I really stuck it out. And yeah, I've just been plugging along since then. But it really helped me to see how many creatives, spiritual practitioners, artists, all my peers had the same kind of ick about business that I had had, and the same feeling of like, oh, I'm not interested in, I don't like marketing and I don't like sales, and I'm not really interested in all this businessy stuff. I don't want to go to business school. I'm not like an MBA person. And so like the business ick made me very avoidant of wanting to learn the things that I needed to learn. And once I learned them, I was like, oh, I can translate this into something that my people will get and work with people on this in a different way. Because we do need these skills, but also our way of doing business is just different. And we have to be able to pick and choose the things that really will work for us and the things that are maybe from kind of a more old school masculine mode of doing business that doesn't work as well for our personality type.
Mm-hmm. So much gold, like so many, even just in your story, there's so many beautiful, like things to learn from. I think it's so interesting how like much of our stories overlap. I actually built a brick and mortar business before I even came into the online space. So I actually didn't start out in network marketing. I started out as a skincare specialist, and I had a spa prior to ever coming online. And then after I had my daughter, I was like, okay, we need to figure out something else. And so I have also, same thing. It was like business background, but then when you bring it online, it's a completely different environment. And I think the thing that it really perpetuated in my body was like the comparison. When you're building a brick and mortar, like nobody gives a fuck what everybody else is doing. You're like, you have your blinders on and you do what's best for your company, and you build your company based on the heartbeat of your company. Like what needs to happen? You look at the customers that are coming through the door, and you literally bring in things or create services for the customers who are coming through the door. And it like literally doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. And instead of trying to do the same thing or emulate, you try and be as different as the company that is like, in the industry with you. So it was very, very interesting. Same thing, coming into this industry, and it was like, felt like a Shark Tank. I felt like I was going to get chewed up and spit out. I did the exact same thing as you. When I left like network marketing and came over here, the first thing I did was hire a business coach to learn the ins and outs of operating a business that was not just marketing and sales. Like when you come into coaching and mentorship, it's not about throwing together a container so that you can go do the, 80% that is sales and marketing. It's about like creating offers that serve people and serve them really fucking well, and they'll start to sell themselves. And so I love that perspective and that dynamic that you share. I want to talk about elemental entrepreneurship, because I know that's something that you are coined for. It's something that you love talking about. So talk to us about business through the lens of elemental entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so this was the framework that I created as I started working with people on business. And what's funny is, I love sharing this story. The framework started more like the offer of elemental entrepreneurship, which has become like my signature program, started from a flopped launch. So every year since 2010, in the week between Christmas and New Year's, I've held some type of like goal setting retreat, because I love using that week for like planning the year ahead, because like everyone's kind of off work. It's like this no man's land between last year and next year. I think it's like a great time.
The holiday
What are we
break.
doing? And so I had planned this 5-day retreat in Mexico, and I only sold one spot. But as I was planning, it's like I've done all these different frameworks and formats for this retreat. I've done like a SMART week, where it's like the first day is S, the second day is M, the next day is A, right, for SMART goals. I've done all these different frameworks, and I was like, oh, what if I did earth, air, fire, water, spirit? as my 5 days. And the second I had the thought, I had like full body chills. I like spread paper out on the floor, got my colored markers, and I wrote out like what parts of business are included in each element. And I was having all of these like synapses going, oh my gosh, because if it's earth element, that's our root chakra. So that's everything that's connected to like money, contracts, stability, budgets, the things that actually make us safe in business, our groundwork, our framework, our core values, our unique medicine, but even also like our day-to-day systems and processes. All of these things are our root. That's also connected to the earth signs in astrology. And then like, I was like, oh, ping, 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 ping. I see all of the ways that these all fit together. I only sold one spot for that retreat, and I ended up having to refund that person their money. And I went to my Facebook group at the time and I was like, okay, I feel like the material is right. The format was wrong. This is not a retreat. This is a larger program. If I offered this as an online program, would you sign up? And I had this yes. So it like blew up from there. So I broke down earth. Air element is our heart and our third eye in my framework. And it's our vision, our mission, what we want to create in the world. It's also expanders. Like, what is our vision of success and who do we see out there that we can model after, who has even parts of what success looks like to us, and understanding that that's very unique. We have to know what we want to build toward in order to build. How do we want to change the world? How do we feel like our work impacts the planet? And then that also gets us into copy and our ideal client. Like, who do I want to impact with this work? And how do I want to speak to them from my heart in a way that connects to their heart? We go into fire, and fire is most of what you think of when you think of business coaching. So it's like your offers, your sales, your marketing, like taking the actions, the CEO identity, solar plexus chakra things, and moving them out into the world. That's our fire. Our water is our sacral chakra, our emotions, all of the feelings that come up with business. And I really feel like water is one of the big game changers in elemental entrepreneurship, because I think a lot of programs will just work with you on the emotions of business or just work with you on the practical side. Then with spirit, a lot of programs just work with you on manifesting and energetics. This is everything together, because you need everything together in balance for your business to work. So water is where we get into all of the feelings that come up as we're running this business, and allowing your business to be shadow work, allowing it to be a healing relationship in your life, because your business will bring up all your insecurities and all your wounds and all your stuff. And you can take that as an opportunity to heal, versus thinking that that means you're doing it wrong and business is not for you. And then in spirit, we get into manifestation, energetics, human design, astrology. Like, what are the external systems that you can use to support you in understanding your business? And then also faith, communion, understanding that there is some system underneath all of this, that your force alone, your hustle alone is not the only determining factor in your success. There's other cooperative components, right? Whether you call that the universe or God or spirit or source, there's something else that is available to help you make this happen. The way that I always think of it is, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. For a lot of business owners, right? Like, we're not great gardeners. We plant the seed, and then if like we don't see a sprout in 24 hours, we're out there digging it up at night trying to figure out what's going wrong. Whereas like, we understand when we plant a seed, like, I'm gonna have to wait for this tree to grow. I'm gonna come outside, I'm gonna water it, I'm gonna sing to it, and then I'm gonna get on with my business, because part of this is not up to me. Part of this is just like, this has to unfold and it has to happen. And we really have to trust that it is unfolding and it is happening for us to be in that place. And so that's where our spirit work comes in. Once we understand the elements, and so part of it is very educational. People can just go in and drop in and learn the things that they need to learn from each element. Like, you can really practically learn, how do I create a marketing plan, and how do I, right, be guided through your business why and your ideal client. But once you learn the framework, what gets brilliant to me is, I think it takes a lot of shame and blame out of business, because you can just go, oh, I struggle with earth. Earth is like not the place I love hanging out. I love hanging out in air and spirit. I love making plans and just being like, it's all gonna work out. But I don't love like the day-to-day making plans. I don't have a lot of systems. I don't love budgeting. I just need to pay more attention to earth. I need to bring my earth more into balance, right? Or maybe it's when I am making plans and looking at my vision, I find I get overrun with emotions. I get super scared. I get really into scarcity. All my imposter syndrome comes out. And so that doesn't mean I'm bad at business. It means I have water stuff that just needs my attention. It's clogged and I need it to be flowing so I can go pay attention to that water and let that move through. So nothing is bad. We're all just we're either balanced in our elements or we're excessive in one or we're deficient in one. And it's really easy and it takes pressure off to just be like, oh, this isn't a problem. It's just like a lack of air, right? If we have too much earth and we have too much water, we're in the mud. So what do we need? We need some air. We need some like reconnect to your why. We need some fire. We need to take some action and see what happens to like get some moisture out of there, right? So it just becomes this very practical way to notice what's going on in our business and what needs to be either turned up or turned down.
That's so funny that you say that about the earth. I'm like, I'm all earth. Like well, I'm also like Virgo everything in my chart, like earth everything. Like, I'm like, give me the fucking to-do list and I will do it. But everything, it's so funny the way that we tick. I actually teach something really, really similar, but instead of using, like the elements, the way that you use them, I teach, and that's where Kundalini comes into the work that I do is I teach it through the 5-element theory, but, traditional Chinese medicine, as opposed to elemental theory in that way. So we use like wood and metal as opposed to air and ether and spirit. And that's the same thing. So when we use traditional Chinese medicine with your business, it's looking at actual blocks in your meridian, similar to like acupressure, acupuncture. So when you go for acupuncture, what they're doing is they're like inserting needles or pressure into certain meridians to balance out our elements, right? Like our liver meridian is our wood meridian, wood element. And so that's how I use Kundalini, and business is looking at where is the imbalance in your business with, like you say, water, earth, metal, whatever it is. And then we can use certain kriyas that put pressure and vibration onto certain areas of the body that can help unblock those meridians. So I think that a lot of the work, this was really, really, really fucking cool with sharing our own unique gifts and the way that we perceive things. And like for our listeners, when you see something a certain way, you may not have proof of somebody else doing it already. And you have to really trust that you're not fucking crazy. And like the way that you put this and this and this thing together and it makes sense in your brain, like that's your unique methodology. And you will find people in the industry, like you and I sitting here talking about this, it's like, oh my God, I literally teach the exact same thing. We have none of the same mentors. We've probably read very little of the same books. Same thing, different flavor, but two people, like one person would resonate entirely with the way that you teach it and your energy and your perspective and astrology and human design. Someone might really resonate with the way that I do it. Kundalini and meridians are really taking a somatic approach to it. So my point in this little like off tangent that I'm on right now, and then I'll digress, is that information is information is information. And as you are learning, you can embody information and teach it completely different than somebody else. And that's like, it's such a cool industry to be a part of. There's a lot of shadow in the coaching industry, but there is a lot of like fucking magic that I'm just like obsessed with. I love sitting here listening to your story and the way that you do things. Very, very cool.
Thank you. And I think for me, it's also confirmation, right? I think sometimes I've had this experience in the past. Have you seen or heard Elizabeth Gilbert's TED Talk on genius from like a bazillion years ago? It's great. I'll send it to you. Everyone go, you can just go Elizabeth Gilbert Genius. She's the person who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. and big
Yeah.
magic. And years ago, she gave a TED talk on the concept of genius. But one of the things that she's talking about is essentially like our ideas come to us, they're not ours. And like if we wait on an idea too long, it will go find someone else because the idea wants to be made. And she's like, that's why sometimes you sit an idea too long and then you see someone else come out with your idea and you're like, what the hell? And it's like, because the idea was like knocking around on artists' doors, being like, will someone make me? But I feel that confirmation sometimes when I encounter other people who are doing similar work, where it's like, this is a confirmation that we're all on the right track. The fact that all of us are coming to these conclusions independently, the fact that so many people are coming to these conclusions independently is a sign that I, as a thinker, and this other person as a thinker, we're on the forefront of some shit right now. And like, that's really exciting. And something I love in the coaching world is when I see people, first of all, genuinely creating their own frameworks, but also that like conversations start popping up from people who like they're not copying you, they didn't see your work, they haven't been present for the conversations you've been having with your friend, they are having these same ideas. We're like, and so it's exciting to me to see these lines of thought happening, but it also shows me that like one of the things that is really cool and interesting about the coaching world, because depending on who you ask people, like where coaching came from, it either came from sports psychology coaching or like executive coaching, but I think it's kind of both. But this used to be a very male dominated industry. Like in the 70s, it was an incredibly male dominated industry. Now that it is an online business space, it is becoming a woman led industry. It's becoming a femme led industry. And the approach that women, femmes, non-binary folks are bringing to business, the way that people are looking at the old ways of doing business, we are looking at the patriarchal, hyper-capitalist lens of business. We're looking at the exploitative marketing tactics. We're looking at the coercive sales. We're looking at the put numbers above everything. We're looking at extraction at all costs, profits over how you feel, like destroy the earth if it means we get ahead. We're like step over people for success. We're looking at all of that and saying, I want to do business, but I don't want to do that. And in the lack of there being other models, we're creating other models that are rooted in things that we've learned, and frequently things that we've learned from other cultures, to be fair, because North American culture is not going to give it to us. It is a culture rooted in exploitation. So we are having to go back either to our own ancestry, we're going back farther in history, we're going into like different traditions that we've studied from other places in the world. We're creating our own correlations and saying, oh, here's a system that does feel good to me. Here's a system that is sustainable. Here's a framework that is easy for people to understand. And it's already kind of familiar. It's something we already have some exposure to. And here are the things about business that are important that we do need to know, right? Like we do need to know how to have budgets. We don't have to necessarily design those budgets to be profits over people. We do need to know about marketing. We don't necessarily need to know about how to exploit people into making decisions that are bad for them, right? So we're pulling out the parts that are like, here's what we do need to know. Here's how we put it into a framework that feels more sustainable, more equitable, more holistic, safer, more in line with our real values about who we want to be on the planet and the way that we want to relate to ourselves, our bodies, our communities, labor, the earth. And we're creating a new way to do things because the old way, quote unquote, works, but it is working at the expense of all of us and everyone suffering. And so what I love is seeing how many brilliant women, femmes, and non-binary folks are currently at the forefront of solving this problem. Because we out here doing it. We're solving this problem.
I love that. I love that. And I think with that too, like there are so many things, like age of Aquarius, of course, right? Like that is a transition that we are in a as a collective right now. We're seeing like sisterhood wounds being healed like before our very eyes and replacing that, comparison and competition with collaboration. And, it's really interesting, even sitting here in an environment like this, like something that I always talk about in my community, we talk about it all the time on the podcast, everything is like, this ability to be in your sovereign power, and I can be in my sovereign power, and my power does not feel threatened by yours, and yours does not feel threatened by mine, and that our power really does amplify when we collaborate and do things together. And that is not something that, like in a male dominated industry 20 years ago, we were not fucking having that conversation. That was not a conversation that was being had. It was like everyone was constantly being triggered by everybody else's power. And so for us, being able to, sit in this environment where I really do fucking see how intelligent and powerful and magnificent you are. And you see that within me. And it's like, let's collaborate and see what kind of conversation we can create. We're both sitting here like, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. What other magic can we create together? How can we continue to amplify this conversation for everybody else? And guys, this is where the industry is going. And it's a really, really, really powerful, exciting time. And it's also why we're seeing like a little bit of a crumble of the coaching industry, things that don't align with that, where comparisonitis and jealousy and, bidding people against one another and just all of these different things that we were doing, it's falling away because this power is being amplified. And it's really, really exciting. Beautiful segue right into you talking about your Powerhouse Mastermind. We're talking about power. We're talking about my power, your power. And you're like, I have the Powerhouse Mastermind. So tell us about that.
I'm so excited about Powerhouse. So this is a brand new offering. It is starting in June. It is in beta. It will be an application only small group of entrepreneurs who are pretty established in their business, but something that I've been seeing so much over the past 6 months to a year in my peer circle is people coming out and saying, my business is working, but I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making money, but I don't love how I'm doing it. And for a lot of people, it is because they found a mentor or a coach right at the beginning who gave them a system and they did exactly what that coach told them to do and it worked. But then we don't know what we don't know. So it turns out the model of their business doesn't work for what they want in their lifestyle. It requires too much hustle, or it's all built on live launching and they don't want a live launch, or they scaled too fast and now they like have a team, but they feel pulled out of the parts of their business that they love, right? Like there's some way that this happened. For a lot of people that I work with, I call them fire dominant entrepreneurs. I am earth dominant in my chart, but I was a fire dominant entrepreneur, which means I started businesses on accident because I needed money. I would just like put something on sale and then it works, but they have no foundation underneath it. So they can't take a break. They can't hire because the steps for how to do everything are all in their head. And they are kind of controlling of everything. And they feel like if I handed some of this stuff off, like what if it all falls apart?
I'm like, that's me.
Yeah. And so what ends up happening is I see people who are, and we see this all the time. You can scroll through and you can find accounts that are like 40, 50K follower accounts that are just dead. That entrepreneur burnt out. That person ghosted their business because it got too big too fast, or they built a business that quote unquote worked in the financial sense, but it doesn't work for who they are. It doesn't work for their nervous system. It doesn't work for their life. Frequently, this coincides with those of us who have been in school kind of type A, kind of gifted kids, also with people who have a tendency toward people pleasing, right? Like I'm really good at doing everything I should do and am supposed to do and will be really successful at it, and then not be sure like why I feel hollow or why I'm dreading things or why, the marketing that was working just stopped working. I was putting stuff out and it's like I used to get results and now I'm not. And it's like because energetically something shifted and you actually don't want to do this anymore in this way. But you feel like you have to because that's the thing that works, right? At some point, your interest shifted. You would really rather be doing something else. An example of this is I was working with a coach as a client who She had a lot of success in business coaching, but what she really wanted to do was more spiritual and energetic work. But she was really, really struggling to pivot because when she would put out a new offer that was more spiritual and energetic, of course, it doesn't sell as well because you have an audience that knows you for business. And like the calculated loss of the pivot and being like, there's going to be a little time where my sales numbers don't look like what they used to, and I'm going to lose followers. And I have to like stay with that and trust it while people kind of find their way out. But it's so dysregulating and it's so scary. And so I just keep going back to offering business stuff because when I offer business stuff, it sells. Maybe this is what people want from me, right? Just trapped in everyone else is now the authority. And so the kind of thesis, the primary question is like, what happens when you return all of the power for the decision making in your business back to your body? What happens when you are the seat of power in your business, when you are the home of power in your business, when your intuition, your excitement, your enjoyment becomes the primary decision-making rubric that you're using in your business? And if that makes you feel scared, then Powerhouse is for you. It's the idea of like, oh yeah, but if I did that, everything would fall apart. Like that's what we need to calibrate and to shift through. And so I'm really, really excited about it. I've also been thinking a lot for Powerhouse about, and I think this is me, I think this is something I'm going through right now. People tell you to build your business in your zone of genius. And that's great advice unless you are an actual genius, because I'm really good at lots and lots of things. And most of the people I work with are really good at lots and lots of things. And we're like passively good at a lot of things and decent at a lot of things and like could sell a lot of things. And so it's really build your business in a zone of excellence that is not your zone of highest excitement. And to get stuck there and be like, oh, yeah, I'm good at this. People buy it from me. I make money off of it. But am I passionate about this? Is this my favorite thing to do? Is this what I want to do with people all day, every day for years? Or is it just like, this is a thing I was good at that I knew people would pay me for. And so I went all in on it. And shifting to, what if I let it be exciting for me? What if I made it easy? What if I simplified it more? What if I was completely trusting all the time in my own power and I let that ripple outward? So that's what we're going to be doing.
I love that so much. It's actually incredible to me how many people I work with that were like, I'm like, okay, what's the next step? What are we doing? What are we focusing on? And they're like, well, I could do this and I could create this challenge and I could create that. And I'm like, hold fucking stop. Like just hard pause, hard e-brake on what we're already upside down in business. When we go, I could, because and then we validate it. I could do this because, and then we make a reason why it should be the next logical step. Like it's a ticking time bomb. How long until you find resentment in your business, until you're frustrated in your business, until you're like, I want to burn this thing to the ground, until you realize that there's no amount of money that is ever going to make you happy. Like, I love this conversation that you're bringing to the table because it's something that I would say probably 70% of people struggle with. Like even people who are making like 10, 20K a month in their business will still come to me and they're like, well, I could. And I'm like, why are we still couldn't? Coulda, shoulda, you're shitting on yourself. Let's stop.
What is the most exciting thing? What's the thing that's so exciting you can't imagine doing anything else?
The whole point, isn't it? Like, isn't it the whole point in building a business in this way? Chase the excitement, chase that. And yes, is it going to be hard and like exciting and sexy all the time? Absolutely not. Like building a business is like it's hard, and that you will go through things that are not easy, and you get to make it filled with joy and ease and excitement when you choose to chase the things in your business that are that. I'm like a hard pivoter. And like, I'm like, I even had one of my core team members, in the last little bit, like decide to transition out of the company and do something completely different. And I was like, every part of my body was like, wait, hold on. What? Like, what about my safety? What about like yada, yada, yada. And I had to remember that like, this is the very thing that I preach about my business. Like you have to chase what is real and alive for you, because if you don't, it becomes toxic. It becomes toxic when it feels like that in your body. So I love this conversation. It's really, I just love you and I love your work and I love the way that you teach business and just the embodied perspective that you take for this. I think it's really refreshing and I think it's very activating for, women that are building businesses in a way that, like you said, they look at business and like, I don't want to do that and that and that and that and that, but I also want to be an entrepreneur. So how do we do it differently? Where can people come find you? Because I'm like, we could sit here and talk all freaking day, but eventually I have to cut you loose and we're just going to keep following along your journey. So where do we find you? Your podcast.
Yeah, I have a podcast that's called the Elemental Entrepreneurship Podcast. KC was on it. Come check it out. And I am taking a pause from Instagram, which has been so good. I'm taking this year off of Instagram. So I have an Instagram, but it's not active. Every once in a while I pop on and share things in stories, but it's just Intuitive Edge Coaching. You can go see it. It's there. I might come back. You can follow me. I'm on YouTube at Intuitive Edge Coaching. And if you're interested in applying for the Powerhouse Mastermind, which I would love to have anyone who's resonating with this conversation and it feels right to you, I would love to have you in this first cohort. It's also insanely cheap. It is a year-long mastermind for $5,000 because it is a beta. This is the first time I've ever offered it. And so I want to put together a genuinely powerhouse collective of people. I also want to note, a lot of times in the coaching world, people say mastermind, but they mean group coaching. This is a hybrid. So there's 2 calls a month in the mastermind. One is a group coaching, like a hot seat call where you can bring anything going on to be coached and know that you are always going to be coached back into your own power, your own sovereignty, your own intuition, your own highest excitement. That's what it's there for. The second call is more of a traditional mastermind format. So I am putting together a powerhouse group of people who I know are going to inspire each other to go for those next levels of sovereignty, independence, and interdependence and collaboration. But part of the reason it's so inexpensive for this first year is I want really great feedback on the formula so that we can do it again. So if that's something that feels exciting to you, it's intuitiveedgecoaching.com/powerhouse. And I know Casey will drop the link in the show notes. So yeah, I'm Intuitive Edge Coaching on all the things. You can come say hi. I'm really nice. So if you message me, I'll message you back.
Oh my goodness, it's been such a pleasure sitting here with you again. I'm like, we've spent hours together at this point, and I'm just so grateful. And it's pretty cool when you can, sit with someone for literally a few hours, not coming on, not knowing someone, and still like, I'm still in this moment. I'm like, we could talk for another hour. Like, I love it. I love these conversations, and that that's like pure alignment. And so I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful that like God brought you into my little corner of the universe, and that we can, like collaborate on all these things. It's just been so, so cool. So you guys, if you got anything from this episode today, please take a screenshot, tag both of us on Instagram, although I am the only one that's probably going to respond. But let us know what you loved from this episode. Let us know what really resonated with you. I always say this is such an intimate experience when we get to be in your ear for the last hour. I want to know who's listening in. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Cera, so, so, so much for sharing your wisdom and your power and all of the things. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
That's our episode for today. Thank you, as always, for being here and for listening to the podcast. I know there are so many things that you could be doing with your time, so many things you could be listening to. It is an honor that you choose to be here. Connect with me on Instagram at Intuitive Edge Coaching. Have a great day.